Researcher in Microsoft 365 Copilot has gotten some big updates, and while these are focused on making this tool more effective, they might also signal some changes in how technology can help us to become more responsible users of AI in the future. Anyone using Copilot or interested in responsible AI adoption should know about these upgrades. Let's dig in. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant who specialises in AI adoption for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you're interested in keeping up with AI advancements, make sure you get subscribed to the channel and drop this video a like so you get to see more from me in the future. And if you're interested in working with me, check out the links down in the video description to get in contact. The researcher agent arrived back in the spring of 2025 and immediately transformed the experience of Microsoft 365 Copilot for many users who had been wanting it to search deeper, go broader, and bring together more expansive outputs. Researcher is a version of Copilot tuned to do these deep research tasks, and since that initial release, the team behind it have not been standing still. It has added features like new data sources, sub-agents, and computer use, and it has appeared in more places across Microsoft 365. It was even the earliest example of a Copilot service going multi-model when it added support for Claude. But now, with these recent updates, we are arguably seeing the most important evolution of Researcher to date. The first update we need to look at is critique. This replaces the default experience of using Researcher with a hybrid, where a GPT model does your research and then a Claude model checks its work. The focus of this check is across three areas: source reliability, are they reputable and verifiable? Report completeness, does it actually address what you asked for? And appropriate groundedness, is every claim actually anchored in a source that has been cited? This work happens transparently, and you don't see anything different coming back from Researcher. You're just aware that it's gone through this critique step and delivered an enhanced report. This maps perfectly on the way we might verify a lengthy written output without AI. In many businesses, important documents get checked by a second pair of eyes before they get issued. This might even be formalised in having particular teams check certain work before it is finalised. And Microsoft claims that this process does indeed lead to some significant benchmark improvements, although these uplifts are self-reported and not yet, so far as I'm aware, independently verified. Like so many Copilot advances today, this one is dependent on Claude, so if that's not available in your tenant yet, you won't see this. And right now, this and the next feature we are looking at are rolling out to the Frontier program. For those with access to this feature, it's going to become the default in Researcher. The next update is Model Counsel, and while this on the surface feels similar to critique, it's actually serving a very different purpose. When you select Model Counsel, your request is going to be responded to both by a GPT model and by Claude independently. You enter your prompt as you normally would, and the process looks the same until it starts generating an output. And then you see we have Claude and GPT working alongside one another in the same process, which, in an admittedly very nerdy kind of way, I do find cool to see. When Researcher finishes, we get back three assets. We get a report from the OpenAI model, we get the report from the Claude model, and importantly, we get a cover page from Researcher telling us where they align and where they don't. Whereas critique is set up to boost our confidence in the facts of the report, Model Counsel is set up to give us insights as to where there might be differences of opinion or variances of interpretation on the same issue. These are subtly but importantly different capabilities that you might use for different purposes. There is an important question here though. Given that each time you start with a tool like Researcher, it kind of starts from blank, why is Model Counsel potentially more useful than if you were to just run the same request through Researcher multiple times using the same GPT model? This is highlighting that while, on the surface at least, GPT or Claude models have largely similar capabilities, they get there through different training, different architectural approaches, and a different way of consuming data. And so they will look at exactly the same issue with equivalent levels of expertise, but through an entirely different lens. While you might get some flavour differences between running the same thing on the same model repeatedly, this is probably going to give you more separation between the two. It's important to point out, though, that this approach is just one of many where running a process in parallel against different instances of your AI tool can be helpful. A couple of weeks ago, I had Abram Jackson, Copilot Extensibility PM at Microsoft, join me for my new series Copilot Conversations, where he demoed connected agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot. I'll drop a link to that video down below. He shows us how agents running on the same model but instructed to have different personas could work together to essentially offer an agent council of different opinions on the same issue. One of these approaches highlights technical differences while using the same instructions. The other highlights differentiated prompt engineering while using the same technology. My point is that there are lots of different ways Microsoft could approach this process of running the same request concurrently to achieve different but useful results. Will multi-model be the first of a series of new levers Microsoft gives us to make researcher better in this way? I'm not aware of any plans in this regard, but there are options out there that could be interesting. Critique and Model Council are fantastic boosts for researcher, an experience that already is broadly praised as one of the highlights of Microsoft's Copilot tools. But for me, the most important takeaway here isn't how these new multi-model approaches integrate into researcher, but how a Copilot with these capabilities better integrates into many businesses' adoption needs and the places where we might see users struggling with AI. Let's look at that next. Microsoft 365 Copilot is constantly evolving with new features and capabilities. But its value isn't that list of updates. What really matters is how much it can help you to get done. Since Copilot launched, I've been helping businesses turn teams with new licenses into power users delivering real business value. Now, I'm running a training program you can join as an individual. Find out more at the links down in the description and get signed up for Get Work Done with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Or, if you need training or adoption support for your whole team, check out my other services. Finding the right path for AI adoption can be a challenge, but pretty universally our goal is to get a higher rate of return from an investment in Copilot, while doing so in a way that's safe and responsible, not taking on undue AI-related risk. It's how these new capabilities of researcher fit into this picture that I think is most important and potentially most exciting for how Microsoft is approaching making AI adoption safe for its customers. Pretty much every provider of generative AI services has some form of AI can be wrong disclaimer in their outputs. This is essentially a feature of this technology and not a bug that's going to be easily fixed. Unlike deterministic computer systems like a calculator that will always tell you 2 + 2 is 4, generative AI models arrive at their answer probabilistically, so there is always a risk of getting something slightly or even totally wrong from them. We can improve the chances of getting a good answer through better prompting or better grounding, but in many cases the type of work we give them just doesn't have a pass or fail type of right answer. And this creates a new challenge that when adopting AI we must implement approaches to mitigate. The reality is, though, that very few humans have the reliability of a calculator across their work. Arguably, we are far more like generative AI models than we are like a deterministic computer program, as it is just part of our experience of life to make mistakes. We make them so often that we have built the way we approach work to recognise that errors will happen and to implement controls to catch them. Even with workers whose jobs are most like calculators, when we have people in finance teams working through numbers all day, standard operating controls like separations of duties are not just there to keep everyone honest, but also to keep everything correct. And this is the type of real-world error handling that Microsoft has started to implement inside Researcher. Two different AI models may have largely similar skills and knowledge, but they have come to them in different ways. Just as two accountants might have the same qualifications, but look at the world through different lenses. Perhaps your task for today is to draft a letter, and you ask a couple of your colleagues to review what you put together before you send it. Each of them looks at the same text, but through slightly different perspectives. If everyone agrees it looks good, you can be more confident that it's ready to send. Does this process reduce the probability of some horrendous error to zero? No, but it reduces it to a level where in most circumstances it feels like a responsible and balanced approach. And this is exactly what Microsoft is doing with Critique in Researcher. The more interesting consideration, though, is what if your colleagues disagree about the topic of your letter? This gives you places where you need to dig into the detail further, where you need to make decisions, and ultimately where your judgment as the person driving that piece of work will deliver most value. This is the exact point of model counsel. We don't add value iterating over issues everyone agrees on. We do so by digging into places where there might be room for clarification or reframing. By better aligning the way a tool like Researcher works with the way we really approach taking these types of work from draft to finished in the real world, Microsoft is making AI adoption simpler. This question of how we can turn more output into results delivered with confidence is a big one. I think every AI user understands the pang of stress that appears when pressing send on an output AI helped with. Did you check it enough? Did you read every citation? Did you check every link? This is no different than the potential for human error, but in many cases it does hit differently. Features like Critique or Model Counsel are about increasing confidence in Researcher, in Copilot, in the work AI does, and for the AI pilots sitting at their desks, wondering what to do with this wonderful report that might be useful, but also might be usefully wrong. Microsoft is starting to show us how our well-worn approaches with mitigating human error can be replicated with AI technology to allow tools like Researcher to better police itself, and to genuinely make wrongness more useful. I like this approach a lot, and frankly, we shouldn't stop with Researcher. Anything we can do to turn AI can make mistakes from a generic warning to a well-understood call to action is going to help more users get more value from Copilot. And ultimately, for anyone watching a video like this, that's what we're looking for. What do you think of these new capabilities? Let me know your experiences down in the comments. Thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next video, bye bye.